One of my favorite YouTube stations, in fact, two of my favorite YouTube channels, Pauli TV, which is Paul and Malangini's station, and Joe Stunner Boxing, are both reporting an interesting story. A slightly different perspective, but the same story. Essentially, Pauli TV, which I think was the first to break the story, is drawing a parallel between the way that TV companies have behaved with respect to one potentially unsavory set of circumstances and another potentially unsavory set of circumstances. And I thought I would give you a brief synopsis. And I encourage you to both look at the Pauli TV story and, of course, Joe Stunner Boxing story. Well, Pauli TV is focusing on a certain degree of what he claims is hypocrisy. And he says that there was a company called MTK, which was alleged to have an association with an individual who was alleged to be involved in nefarious activity, which may or may not have been criminal. The individual was Daniel Kinahan. And Pauli TV is saying that a number of fighters' contracts with TV broadcasters were rescinded because of their association with MTK. And then Pauli TV goes on to say that the same standard is not being applied with respect to the involvement of Turki Alalshikh with certain fighters and broadcasters and whatnot. Specifically, Turki Alalshikh is referenced in an interesting article dated Tuesday, the 29th of November, 2022, in the Guardian newspaper. Now, the Guardian newspaper is a broadsheet newspaper out of the United Kingdom. And the article, which is written by a person by the name of Anuji Chopra, details, it is entitled The Godfather, Saudi Style, Inside the Palace Coup That Brought MBS to Power. And the article, which I will put in the link in the description so you can read the article yourself, talks about what is essentially a palace coup in Saudi Arabia. There were two royal princes. One is Mohammed bin Salman, commonly called MBS, and the other is a prince who was the king's nephew, whose last name is Nayef. This is an interesting geopolitical story. What relevance does it have to boxing becomes apparent as you work your way through the story. So in the midst of this power dynamic between two princes, Nayef was called for a meeting in King Salman's palace in Mecca, a marble-walled colossus overlooking the cube-shaped Kaaba, the holiest shrine in Islam. According to sources close to Nayef, when he arrived, his security detail was instructed to wait outside. To prevent any leaks, all mobile phones, including those of the palace staff, were seized by guards loyal to MBS. So one prince's guards are seizing the phones, etc., of the other prince and staff. One senior member of the royal family who tried to enter the palace after Nayef was turned away at the gates. The prince, Nayef, was allegedly ushered into a room with Turki Alalshikh, a close MBS confidant with a gruff, intimidating manner and a predilection for expensive Richard Mille watches. Sheikh would later be promoted to head the General Entertainment Authority, an agency that seeks to soften Saudi Arabia's image by, among other things, hosting giant raves in the desert. Sheikh, and this would be Turki Alalshikh, our boxing chappie, allegedly confined Prince Nayef to the room for hours, pressuring him to sign a resignation letter and pledge allegiance to MBS. At first, Nayef refused. According to one source close to the prince, he was told that if he did not give up his claim to the throne, his female family members would be raped. Nayef's medication for hypertension and diabetes was withheld, and he was told that if he did not step down willingly, his next destination would be the hospital. He was so afraid of being poisoned that night, said another royal family source, that he refused to drink even water. Nayef was permitted to speak with two princes in the Allegiance Council, the royal body that ratifies the line of succession. So this was all about who's going to be next in line. You know, you've got two princes sort of battling for primacy, I suppose. He was shocked to hear that they had already submitted to MBS. By daybreak, it was all over. Anxious and exhausted, Nayef surrendered. He was made to step into an adjoining room where MBS was waiting with television cameras and a guard carrying a gun. Footage released by Saudi broadcaster showed a brief glimpse of Sheikh hurriedly slipping a gold-trimmed robe on the back of the detained prince. As the cameras rolled, MBS crept closer to his cousin and theatrically stooped down to kiss his hand and knee. When I pledged allegiance, there was a gun to my back, Nayef later wrote in a text to his advisor. So Pauli TV is suggesting, based on this Guardian newspaper article, that Turki Alalshikh was involved in this Saudi palace coup. I find it interesting. I mean, the evidence is simply, as far as I can see, this Guardian newspaper article. But Pauli TV is suggesting that there's a degree of hypocrisy in the way that broadcasters, and I suppose by extension streaming services, are behaving. On the one hand, with the company called MTK, they chose to distance themselves because of alleged nefarious activity. And in this other case, with Turki Alalshikh, there's no such arm's length moving away. Like I said, interesting. It might well get more traction. One really doesn't know. But I find it's particularly interesting now that Turki Alalshikh is, increasing his power in boxing and his reach in boxing. Of course, we have the ownership of the Ring magazine, and now this relationship with Dana White and the WWE through this organization called TKO. So I thought I'd bring it to your attention. Have a read of the article. Let me know what you think. Does it matter to you? Is it important? Do we care? Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.